merit to giving them the choice of either coming and talking to us or putting something out on their own after deliberating together and issuing something to the public. I'll just throw that out.
If we're going to go down this path, I think these individuals can think on their feet enough so that they could be present in court, not in court, in a closed session of our commission to state in their own way. Another letter just to raise even more concerns. I mean, I respectfully disagree with Robert about his perception of the letter. I don't necessarily have an objection to talking with the justices, one or more of them, to talk about it. I think it's not a bad thing at all. If we can, assuming we can make it non-accusatory, because I don't think there's anything to accuse anybody of here. I think if people do feel like an explanation is necessary, and apparently at least a couple of our commissioners do, then let's do it. And I think if we're going to do it, it should just be in closed session and not be a letter. That'd be my take. If we're going to do it, let's do it in person.
Judge Roetman.
Yeah, and just from my perspective, if the letter was aspirational, I think we'd all be on board. But because the finger was pointed on, let's go do this, but instead of, it was pointed more internally. I've talked to judges and magistrates that they're scratching their head, who are they talking about? And because when they look at their own experience, that isn't their experience. And so what are we doing? So I think those questions are valid. And I would also say that there is some level of how is a rural magistrate or even an urban one or a district court judge or a superior court judge supposed to voice questions about a letter that's representing the system that they're a part of and pointing the finger back to the system that there's something wrong. And those specific, the judges, this is judge, or yes, it's focused on lawyers too, but this is a reflection and a statement about how the judicial system, the judges, are handling things. And I think because of that, I think there's valid questions. I agree. I don't think it should be accusatory, but I think there's like, what are they really saying? So I don't think that's where I'm coming from. So I think it would be, I think we're the only forum for this discussion to actually happen. So thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I have some concerns over the format. I mean, our jurisdictional basis is to investigate ethical violations, and I actually don't see an ethical violation in the letter, and this is maybe something that we can take up if someone sees that there's one made. That is something that's supposed to be taken up in closed session. To the extent the court wants to have a dialogue over sort of perceptions of the letter and all that, this is a public discussion. I'm sure they'll hear about it. I'm sure they can make the overture, but it just seems odd to me to have to send a letter inviting the discussion in something that's maybe touches close to home, but isn't quite what we do. So anyhow, it's protocol for me, I guess, more than anything else.
Commissioner Jabaay.
Thank you. This question might be from Marla. Marla, if we get somebody who makes a valid claim of an ethics violation against a judge, maybe a specific judge, maybe in this type of a scenario, a non-specific judge, but the judiciary at large, what would be the appropriate steps to clarify? An example would be if somebody that this commission respected made an accusation of an ethics violation among a judge, how would we investigate that potential and that allegation?
So I think what you're asking is if we get a complaint, which we often do, of a general allegation of bias without any specifics, what do we do with that? Is that your question?
No, more like if somebody, say, writes a letter to the editor and says, I was treated super unfairly by a couple of judges, and we read this letter as a commission, we go, man, there's probably an allegation that it might hold some merit here. How do we as a commission then request for more information? Because I think fundamentally that's what we're doing. This discussion is potentially asking the Supreme Court, hey, who are you accusing and when? That whole question of who are you talking to and when did this happen keeps being asked. And so that's kind of a big one because it's the Supreme Court's talking about the whole judiciary. But if it was like on a more micro scale where somebody's like, hey, that wasn't cool in court, and we're like, whoa, that really wasn't cool, possibly, how would we get to the bottom? Would it be you writing a letter and saying, could you give us more information on that letter that you wrote? Or would it be an invitation to bring somebody in for a conversation? What would be the next step for this commission to investigate this possible allegation?
So I do feel the need to kind of separate out a general allegation that we might read, that we do all the time, that, you know, someone make a general allegation about a judge being biased, or, you know, we get those all the time, and we follow up with, we need specific information from you that illustrates what you mean by bias. So maybe that's more in line with what you're talking about. But if it were something, just a public thing out there, like a letter to the editor, if it's specific, we would take it on and probably contact the person to see if they would like us to look at it further. But we wouldn't just on our own initiate something that wasn't specific enough. We do have, as a commission, we do have the authority to initiate investigations, but that's when we have like a newspaper expose or something in a court case, or there's something very specific that in and of itself lays out the grounds for complaint.
Well, wouldn't it be unusual then, would it not, here, in that we would be, in essence, launching an investigation without a complaint?
This isn't an investigation. This is a conversation for them to alliterate what they meant.
Because there's a possible allegation of wrongdoing within the judiciary.
I mean, a lot of people are upset at the letter, and I agree it's upsetting, but I guess my concern is, are we stepping out of our authority to, I mean, if you ask someone to come and explain what you're saying, that's launching, to me, it's launching an investigation. And I don't know if anybody has officially, you know, made a complaint yet. Just a thought.
Marla, has there been any complaints in any manner about this? Have you received anything?
You know, I can't really talk about specific complaints against judges in public session.
Okay. All right. So to determine, we're in a catch-22. I'm saying I did this on purpose, and you know I do things on purpose all the time, Marla. So we're in a catch-22 about this. Thank you for once again erring on the side of caution. So we're in a catch-22, and in the answer to Commissioner Jabaay's questioning and Chair Marston's
to the extent that I do feel the need to clarify, because I think there was an allusion to something in closed session that raises this, and there is no pending complaint with us concerning this particular letter by the court. So to the extent that there were statements made that might be the case now, we haven't received any complaints regarding the Supreme Court's issuance of this letter now.
Is there a downside from seeking clarification from the Supreme Court as to explain what they meant? If there is an issue that's of concern, it seems like that should be of a concern to us. If there's not an issue, I feel like based on everything that's been said today, the Supreme Court needs to have a chance to, I mean, I don't think the air is going to get cleared maybe without hearing from them. That's where I'm coming from at this point now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether Commissioner Sheldon has information that there seems to be something that maybe the rest of us don't know. I certainly don't know, but from what I'm hearing, I guess I'll put it out to you all as to if there is a downside in a, not an accusatory, but a more information kind of discussion with them.